morning, students. First off, let me apologize for the speed of this video. I'm trying to keep this video under 8 minutes, so let's go. What I want you to do today is I want you to complete bell ringer number 23, and we're going to work on the survival argumentative essay evidence log. We're going to answer these two essential questions. Why should or should not the seventh man forgive himself for his failure to save Kay? And why should or should not Captains Bonneberger and Pryor forgive themselves? Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, students will complete their evidence log and begin drafting today. This is day 1 of your argumentative essay, and yes, I do see that typo at the top. You will need the following: blue or black ink pen or a pencil. You will need that for marking the text, note-taking, annotations, etc. You will need your Chromebook for lessons 3, 4, and 5.1. You will need your soft-covered textbook to review your notes for lessons 3 and 4, and highlighters are optional. Okay, let's get started. I want you to go to Google Classroom. And when you get to Google Classroom, I want you to get to your class. I want you to click on classwork. I want you to scroll over here to survival unit. And I want you to scroll down to lesson 5.1, which is the evidence log. Thank you for opening the evidence log. So we need to review this part of the evidence log. This section is based on the seventh man. Let's read the writing prompt for this argumentative essay. Write an argumentative essay in which you state and support your position on whether the seventh man should or should not forgive himself for his failure to save Kay. And your claim is going to be your thesis statement. Now pay attention to this. Okay, the seventh man should forgive himself because you must tell me why the seventh man should forgive himself. Okay, you just can't say he just should. You must tell me why he should forgive himself. Okay, all right, so let's look at how you are supposed to do the column and the rows. Okay, in the first row, what you're going to do is you are going to connect your thoughts to the writing prompt. So right here, the seventh man should forgive himself because you need to tell me why. Well, how am I going to tell you why? You tell me why by telling me what happened on the beach. Okay, what happened on the beach starts on page 136. So you need to go back to your notes and look at what you wrote on page 136. If you were one of my kids who took digital notes, we spoke about what happened on that beach that day. Okay, so you need to go back to your notes. Okay, so what you're going to do in column 3 is you're going to tell me how the evidence supports your position. Okay, so here you have to answer this question, the first one. Then you have to give me specific evidence from the text, and then you have to support it. Okay, you have to explain why he should forgive himself based, or should not forgive himself, based on what happened on that beach that day. Also, you should also talk about the 40 decades of guilt that he carried. Okay, and then you need to give me text evidence and details about the guilt that he had for 40 years. What did it do to him physiologically and psychologically? What did the guilt do? And then you have to tell me, you have to answer the prompt once again about how carrying around all of this guilt relates to whether or not you think he should or should not have forgive himself for failing to save Kay. Then in this next section, you're going to put the counterclaim. And the counterclaim deals with someone who disagrees with your argument. Okay, so I gave you an example here. Others may perceive the seventh man as deserving the guilt. He was terrified of the waves and failed to grab his friend. He should feel horrible as he left his friend to die without even trying physically to save him. These viewpoints are invalid or imperceptible because, okay, so this person disagrees with what you wrote here, and you have to tell me why that person's viewpoint is imperceptible or invalid. Imperceptible, it has the word perceive in it, so if you don't know what it means, I want you to look it up. Okay, for this next section, we're going to look at the moral logic of survivor's guilt. Okay, for this one, the claim will be different. Okay, for this one, you will tell me whether or not Captain Bonneberger and Captain Pryor, whether or not these two men should forgive themselves. Now, I do not want groupthink in my classroom, and what groupthink is, everyone should have the same opinion. Okay, I'm not going to arrest kids who have a different opinion, and none of you should give your classmates any grief if they have a different opinion. Okay, so let's look at this. Captain Pryor should not easily forgive himself because while Captain Bonneberger should forgive himself because, and of course, y'all know when y'all see those four dots there, y'all know that something is supposed to go in there. Your opinion is supposed to go there. Okay, so let's look at another opinion. Both Captain Bonneberger and Captain Pryor should forgive themselves because. Okay, so you will tell me what you think up here. Now, you're going to do the exact same thing you did on the previous page that you did here. Okay, now, as you can see here, when I created my chart, I had to remember what all these examples of guilt was. So I did that for myself because I wanted to put myself into my students' shoes. And so I put all of this over here. Hint, hint, you guys might want to do the same thing. Okay, so I defined what survivor's guilt was. I defined what subjective or irrational guilt was. And I gave examples that I discussed in my classroom with my students. And please remember that I am assuming that you know the definition of these terms. If you don't know the definition of these terms, then what I want you to do is I want you to do what I did, find the page number and put it into your own words. Okay, so let's look at the first example here of subjective guilt. Okay, all right, so I wrote the definition of what subjective guilt is. It is associated with this sense of responsibility, is thought to be irrational because one feels guilty despite the fact that he knows he hasn't done anything wrong. And what I did here was I spoke about Captain Pryor and I spoke about Captain Bonneberger as well. And I talked about the physiological and psychological guilt that each man has here, or I wrote notes on it. And then what I did is I gave my opinion on Captain Pryor and Captain Bonneberger based on what was over here and the definition of subjective or irrational guilt. Now, I put this in red here because I need to remind myself what my claim is. And so, on the contrary, they should acquit themselves, etc., etc., etc. And those are my opinions. And as you can see here, I added some transitional words there to help my writing flow better. Okay, we're up to 9 minutes. I don't think I'm going to make it up to 8 minutes. So let's see here. I also ask myself questions, or hint, hint. I would like you guys to sort of answer these questions that are here. How does or does not objective guilt apply to Captain Bonneberger and Pryor, and explain how objective guilt fits or does not fit in Pryor, Bonneberger, and the seventh man's circumstances. And you also need to talk about blameworthiness. please be careful that you talk about blameworthiness. And of course, I had to remember what blameworthiness was, so I had to add it to my notes. Okay, and then of course there is agent regret, which is located on page 155. And of course, I asked myself questions that were here that hint maybe you want to look at and see the questions that you might have to answer to yourself, and look at self-indictment and relate. And what I did is I told myself, because I had to put myself into the eyes of the student, how all of this would relate to prior self-indictment and how it relate to the seventh man's, and then look at moral repair. I think that moral repair means redemption. And there's a difference between this type of moral repair and what is full moral repair. Okay, and so hint, I ask myself questions, putting myself into the role of the student right here. And then I put Kant's In Perfect Duty, Immanuel Kant, page 157, of what it means to be a good soldier. And please remember, you might want to bring up what it means to be a good man or a good friend when it comes to the seventh man. And of course, down here below, I have bonus philosophers here for you. If you need help or assistance, please remember that I will be back Friday, and that will be day 2. And we will discuss what you guys will do for day 2 on day 2. But I expect this evidence log to be completely filled out by the time I get back on Friday. And I don't want to hear that you didn't know what was supposed to go where, because I pretty much hint. If you look at this video, like you should have, you will see that I put myself into the role of the student, and I ask myself questions about how all of this is interrelated. Okay, so it looks like we made it to 12 minutes. Have a good day. Bye-bye.